All right. Hello, students. This will just be a brief recording walking through uh, the last week for us to complete our research project. So, a few things I just want to make clear, and then we'll talk a little bit about the last section, part 3, and just to kind of present to you what you need to do to finish this project. It's the only thing you have to do this week. There's nothing else. You know, we've had 2 weeks sort of just dedicated to it. So it's like the only thing for this class that you need to do is complete the research project. So what we have here is our current week, week 13. And this is where you would submit the final version. All right. Please remember, if you would like for me to look at drafts, just go back 1 week to week 12. All right, click on week 12, and then go ahead and submit a draft of everything you've done. If you want to submit the third part, you can resubmit a draft again. But don't forget that you submit the drafts in week 12. All right, if you submit the research paper for the assignment sheet in week 13, you are submitting the final copy. I cannot, if you don't submit it where it says rough draft submission, you don't see that. All right. The only way I could give you feedback is if I grade it. So if you would like for me to continue to look at drafts, I will be willing to do so all the way up through the weekend. Please just make sure you go to the week 12 folder to submit your drafts. So if we return real quickly to our current folder, all right, week 13, if you submit something here for the research project, you are submitting the final version. All right, it's November 15th. Can't see that. Okay, so just remember, if you're doing that, you are submitting the final version. Change that. Okay, so if you follow this link, you're going to submit the final version. All right. So you can work on it all the way through the end of this week. All right, but if you're going to send me a draft, make sure you send me a draft in the week 12 section of Blackboard. All right. If you submitted a draft, any draft, I have caught up and graded all of the drafts for the research project. So if you had submitted a draft late last week or Monday or Sunday, I have responded with feedback to all of the drafts that have been submitted to me. So in the week 13 folder, you see a discussion of the last section of the research project, which we're going to talk about. You also see all of the PowerPoints related to the research project. I just collected them all throughout the weeks, and they're right here. So if you have any questions about part 1, the literature review, or part 2, the scene analysis, the PowerPoints and videos discussing those are here, all right, are in this folder. Next, we have the template, the research template. We are going to talk about the research template in a second. But please remember that when you submit the final version, the version you want to be graded, please make sure you use this template. All right, I created it there so that it organizes your entire project really nice and it follows it exactly. Right. Like I said, we will look at this template in a second. Right. And then when you're ready to submit the final version, you submit it here. All right, remember, only in the week 13 folder. If you're submitting the project here, you are submitting it to be graded by me. If you want me to see a draft, you must submit it to the week 12 folder. All right, if it doesn't say draft, it means you're submitting the final. So, let's look briefly at the last section of the research project. Okay, so this section here just covers the last little bit that you need to do to complete the project. You can find this in your week 13 folder with the video attached to it. All right. So remember, the last section of the research project is where you finally can tell me essentially what you feel about the message of Quran's film. All right. This is where you can comment about what you've read, what you learned by doing the research. Okay. This last section of the research project is where you can use the word I. Okay? Only in part 3 of the research project. Right? Only in the last section. So, the last section requires you to compose at least 500 words. It's essentially a formal essay, although it's attached to the same project, that explains what you believe about Quran's film and if it presents a hopeful or dystopian message about a theme. All right. No matter your take, you will justify your thoughts by referencing all the work you have done in the project. You do not need to quote or summarize any of the research that you've done, though it may help you articulate what you believe the message of the film is and what you think about that message. Right. You can think of this as a short mini essay that is the last section of the research project. It is not different. We will look at the template in a moment. All right. But this will be, think of this as a mini essay where you comment about and use all that you've learned from doing parts 1 and 2 of the project. This is not, I repeat, not a different assignment. This is part 3 of the research project. So, in part 3 of the research project, all right, you will have these elements for part 3 only. All right. Introduction. Describe all the work you did throughout the project. The first thing you should do in part 3 is tell me all of the work you did to complete it. It's your chance to brag a little bit to me and let me know how much work you did to complete the project. Next, in part 3, first paragraph of part 3, tell me, do you believe Quran's film, you personally, believe that it has an effective, hopeful, or dystopian message about how society can deal with a problem? Whether that problem be nationalism, or racism, or environmentalism, or whatever. Right. That is your introduction paragraph. The first paragraph of part 3 does these 2 steps. Next, you should have probably maybe 2 body sort of paragraphs of part 3. Remember, we're talking about part 3. All right. Your paragraphs in part 3, after you have done your introduction for part 3, right, give me a point about what you learned from the project and why it's important to your claim about the message. What is one thing from the project that helped inform your belief in the thesis statement? Describe what you learned and explain how this proves your thesis statement and why it's important, why you believe it's important to the message in Quran's theme or film. Now, you may be able to do part 3, which we're talking about here, in 2 paragraphs. That's fine. Remember, you got to get to 500 words. If after part 1, after 2 paragraphs, if you look at your word count and see that you are under 500 words, repeat the step here. Tell me something else you learned and go through the process. All right. So if you're wondering what you are going to tell me in part 3 of the research project, what you're going to present to me is all the work that you did throughout the project, your belief, This is the thesis statement of part 3, is your belief. This is the time where you get to tell me what you believe about the message of the film. Then you have a body paragraph explaining and defending that message. Right. So, if we look at the body paragraph example, right, one of the things that you do, so this slide here discusses this paragraph of part 3 of the research project. All right. Your second paragraph of the research project should tell me something that you learned from completing parts 1 and 2 of the project and why you feel it's important. This idea should be connected to your thesis statement. It should be the same idea. It should be you proving to me what you believe about the movie that you watched. Right. Then you will describe this thing that you learned. All right. How did you come up with your belief about what the film is saying? Did you have a better understanding of it from doing the research? Did you have a better understanding of it from watching the scene that you analyzed and writing about the scene that you analyzed? What is the thing that you learned? Where did you learn it from? All right. Is it an idea in the film? Is it an idea from the research? And then you explain it. All right. What is the most important thing you learned from doing this project about the film? Remember, you are still talking about the film, only in part 3, you get to talk about your beliefs about the film. You get to talk about what you feel about the film. Note, all right, this structure still has the same basic structure that we've been doing all year. Right? You introduce a point, you provide the evidence of the point, and you explain it. So it's still the same process. Same basic paragraph process. And you do this for the body paragraph of part 3. Remember, the introduction here, all right, this is the first paragraph of part 3. Then you do this for your second paragraph of part 3. So, important things to remember about part 3 of the research project. Although this is a point where it is about your thoughts and you may use I in your writing, right? Remember that this section is still a formal section. You should have clear and complete sentences. You shouldn't just talk about your feelings and thoughts. You must show how your opinion about the film is connected to the ideas you learned during the project. All right? Your ideas and feelings about the film need to be connected to evidence from the film or your research that you did. You should think of this as a chance for you to reflect on all that you've learned about the film from doing this project. As always, make sure you hit 500 words for section 3. Right? And if you do use ideas from your research, you should cite them in text again, even if you already did so in part 1. So, to reiterate, this slide here, right, is all discussing part 3 of the research paper. This is not a separate assignment. Think of this as a mini essay that you're writing as the last section of your research. If you use the template, this will also help and become clearer. So, if you go back through, if you missed anything or need to watch anything again, remember that parts 1 and parts 2 were discussed in the research project and have videos in week 13. We've just discussed part 3, so please make sure to conclude, as we're almost done, that make sure that if you are citing in-text citation every idea that is not yours. Please make sure you refer to the MLA citation section that is on Blackboard. It's on the left-hand side where all of the links are. All right. remember that if I've commented on your drafts in part 1, if I have said you need to do in-text citation, I'm telling you this needs to be done after every sentence, and you should watch those videos. All right? If you use in-text citation after every idea that isn't yours, no professor will say that you are plagiarizing. All right? And remember, plagiarism is an important thing that you must avoid. Right? Instances of plagiarism on this assignment will result for an F in the assignment. Right? Since this is quite a large assignment, this means that if you do plagiarize, all right, you basically will have a very hard time earning a grade higher than a C. Right? So if you use in-text citation after every sentence that contains an idea that isn't yours, you can never be accused of plagiarism. So, refer back to this side. Refer back to the place on Blackboard. This is especially important in part 1 of the research project. All right? So, almost every sentence in your literature review should have one. Anytime you use a quote should have one. Anytime you take an idea from somebody else and put it in your own words or quote it in this class or any other class that you take, you should always have in-text citation after it. As long as you are ethically and accurately attributing what you got from your sources, you can never be accused of plagiarism. All right? Along with the videos and material on Blackboard, if you download this PowerPoint, you can click these links that will take you through in-text citation to help you double check it. All right. The final part of the research project will be a works cited page. This works cited page will have the sources from part 1 and the film on it. An MLA works cited page is just a list of sources that come at the end of your paper that tells your reader, here are all the things that I used. In-text citation tells the reader at what point in the paper you are using them. This is just a list of everything that you have done. Once again, there are materials on Blackboard that can help you explain a works cited page, and here are links that help you find it as well. So your paper in its works cited page should have 3 entries. The 2 essays you read for part 1 and an entry for the film. So, lastly, let's now take a look at the template. So, before you submit the final version of your paper, of the research project, you should use this template and use this as the structure to complete your assignment. You must use this template. All right? If you don't use this template or don't follow this structure, you're going to get a response from me that says, I'm not going to grade it until you do. Okay? So, if you click on this link, all right, right here, this is what will open up. So the link in the week 13 folder, this is what opens up. Okay. So what you have here for a template, all right, is I have given you the overall structure of how to organize this project. All right. You don't have to worry about where or how to fit sections 1, 2, and 3 together. I have given you the order and the way to do it. So, as you can see, at the beginning of the top, you put your name, Please put the correct date. Just copy and paste the title of your research project here. All right. Copy the title of your first source here. Write it in or copy and paste it. Copy the paragraph, the first paragraph of your literature review here. Copy the second title here. Copy the second paragraph here. All right. You don't even need to change the headers. All right. I've given you the headers. You basically just need to take the information that you have written and place it into this template. Part 2. All right. Your scene analysis. You need 2 paragraphs. Copy and paste them right there. All right. And finally, copy and paste your 500 words right here for part 3. All right. So the writing that you've already done, right, once you feel that it is correct, once you feel that you're ready to turn it in, you just fill in this structure and you will have a perfect organization. Right? And being able to follow the structure and use this template is a graded part of the assignment. Like, you get points just for using this template, which you can find in the week 13. And then finally, find and create the 2 works cited entries right here. I have given you the film. So you don't even need to figure out how to cite the movie. I have given that for you. You just need to figure out how to cite your 2 essays. All right. So just to go over what you're looking at when I've given you this template, you take what you've written and put it in this order. All right. You don't have to think about how to organize things or where to, where do these things go or how do I structure them. You take what you've written and put them in here. The title of your 2 essays go here. The paragraphs summarizing those 2 essays go here. Your 2 scene analysis paragraphs go in this section right over here. And then your 2 paragraphs or 3 paragraphs of part 3 go right here. And then you create your 2 works cited entries. Like, I've given you the structure for you to follow. All right. So, lastly, please remember too, all right, this is the assignment sheet. This assignment sheet has not changed. All right, it's the same one that we've seen since the beginning. All right, so if you're still wondering, what do I do? Please make sure you read this assignment sheet. This assignment sheet has been the same from the very beginning. And if you look at how this assignment sheet is described, the structure that's outlined here, you will find that this template, which we just looked at, is this structure. All right, I've given you the structure on how to do it. All right, your 2 paragraphs, you put them in the 2 paragraphs where it says in the template. Your 2 paragraphs for the scene analysis, go there. All right, I've outlined everything so that you don't need to worry about, how do I organize this? How do I structure it? How do I make it look like this? This assignment sheet here, the list of all the things that you need to do, set parts 1, parts 2, and parts 3, all can be fit easily in this template. All right, so just make sure that you are reading the assignment sheet and you are using that template when you're ready to complete the assignment. If you want to submit a draft, please make sure you go back to the week 12 folder, just 1 week, last week's folder right here. Okay, go ahead and submit a draft. All right, if you've already done one and would like to do one again, go ahead and submit it here. Only use the link for week 13 when you're ready to turn in the final graded assignment.